I'll be decent at this. All right, and 5. All right, and let's see if we can fix that.
We make technology that moves people. This is the 2019 Nissan Rogue, featuring tech like Pro Pilot Assist. It helps keep you centered in your lane and in control. Now the most exciting tech you own is in your driveway. Is in your driveway. Is in your driveway. Is in your driveway.
So we're just going to reboot?
Is in your driveway.
Right now.
So we're just going to reboot?
Is in your driveway.
Good morning. I am just finishing up these Wargoth. A little bit of metal on the ladies, and to come back around and add eyeballs and little details here and there. I've still got some, I didn't really do too much on these ladies though, so that's going to be a little bit of work here. Just a little bit of metal. Like metal. So I'm going to paint these ones, and I'm looking and I'm seeing a little something missing. I think maybe these Orgoth ladies, they're missing white, maybe some lace. Add some lace on them. The metal on that one. Metal on that one's done, and the last I'll check for metal. Can't really see it. Doesn't even have any metal on her. Okay. So while those dry, I will move to doing some eyeballs. In order to do eyeballs, well, first let me go ahead and clean my brush. I'm going to use a toothpick because it's very, very small, and it can give me the little tiny point that I need. Now the toothpick here. So look at the end of the toothpick. It's small, but maybe it's not really small enough. I think it could get a little bit smaller and sharper to give me the image that I need. Right there. Here we go. So I'm actually going to sharpen the toothpick because it's not really sharp enough. So I'm looking at whatever point. You notice on a toothpick there's a thin point and a fat point. This is how I basically make the world's tiniest brush. I twist it as I abrade it. And like sharpening a chef's knife, this action will make the point really, really, really sharp and pick up almost no pigment. So I'm going to go in and make the sclera of the eyeball. So I don't know, I guess scientists looked at why eyeballs develop the way that they do. Turns out that humans and some other animals have a pronounced sclera on the eyeball, the white area, because it helps read eyeball emotions, which can help communication. So, for example, a horse doesn't have very much sclera, but a chimpanzee does. Just a tiny bit of white. So I've now got him with just enough white that it suggests the sclera of the eyeball. And I'll go back and see if they need pupils. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do. Both the iris and the pupil are going to be one color, a darker color usually. Yep, I can make eyeballs on him. Very carefully get just in there to that point. Got it. Very carefully get just into that point. Got it. So now, even though he's got a big mask on, he actually has eyeballs. The Dark Priest. Ooh, yeah, I gotta get into that too. And this is a place where it's kind of easy to mess up because you're aiming for a really, really minute point. So up there, get the excess off of my thumbnail and go for that sweet spot. Yep. I think that picked up. Yep, he's got little eyeballs in there. Oh. Okay. Going on through, let eyeballs for everybody. Now these are some of the tiniest details, but they really kind of do help the model come alive. Just the last few bits, because when you look at a painting, you're drawn to the face, right? I mean, that's what really stands out. I think this one here, oh, there's eyeballs. Oh. In the classic period, not that I'm anywhere near any of that skill level, but there would be these masters and they would have to commission portraits. And what they would do is they would just basically do the face. And the subordinate guys would come in, their art crew would come in and do the rest of the body. And I'm not a face painter by any means, but the face does deserve a little bit of extra detail. He's got eyeballs. After I'm done with the eyeballs, there's really just a few details and most of these guys will be done. So I think maybe I want to show you the basing on these guys before I finish up the two ladies. I already did that. Eyeballs for him. Oh yeah. A little bit more pigment on there. Sharpen it up again. Oh, yeah. So here is the eyeball. Just kind of like done so that there's a hint of seeing inside that faceless exterior of the mask. Last two eyeballs of these guys. Then we'll start basing them and bejeweling them. And sorry ladies, normally it's ladies first, but you guys are going to wait a little while here. Finish up all the warriors first. It gives a suggestion of eye. And there was no eye before. Alright. That is the eyeball. Looking at the Priest King, he's got a glorious little crescent chest symbol that we could easily amplify with a little trick. So I think what we want to do is do that trick. I'm going to use a little bit of brilliant paint here. And I'm going to make it a little bit greener with a touch of yellow. Make a bright, bright green. I'll do that in the palette. Why not? The base here is blue, right? And even the tiniest pollution of yellow is going to make it green. I want to make a particularly luminous, scary looking, glowing, greenish thing. So just the tiniest bit. There we go. That should ripen up to a sickly green that will now make it glow with the addition of white. Okay, so this sickly, radiant, luminous stuff is going to go right into the chest of the Priest King. And I'm quickly going to just wipe it off. And there we've got his glowing chest symbol. Aha. Okay. That's that. Any other ones I want to use this creepy kind of glow for? I don't think so. Maybe a little bit on this thing. No. So basically I'm putting in these little crevices and then I'm just wiping it off on the exterior. And what that makes is just the tiniest bit of that detail in that color in that place. I don't want it. Looking at him. No. Okay. I think this guy, his face is ready for the pupil. And I already got all the other parts. I might need some, yeah, just pupils in this guy. So pupils are tiny, so I got to use a sharpened toothpick again. So let's sharpen up that toothpick. Just like a chef's knife. Shoot, 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 shoot. Super tight. And some black pigment. Really careful with this because it can make them look stupid, crazed, whatever. It's a highly emotion-laden little dot. And he's done. Now the addition of the eyes, it gave him an expression, I think, of surprised horror. I look at him, he's like, ah! Oh my God! So yeah, because he is kind of horrible. He's got this skull thing. Okay, so he's looking like he's done. I'm ready with him. He's good to go. Need anything else? Ah, he doesn't have any leather on his belt thing. Quickly make that fixed. Now when they're all completed, which they're almost there, we'll base them. So here I'm just using a toothpick to quickly paint. That's another thing you can use besides a brush. Works pretty good for small areas. He's good. His hair. So he's getting old, this guy. Maybe his hair is gray? He's got to do his hair though, he's got to have hair. He's the only one of the male Orgoth models that actually has any visible hair. So there's some white over the hair. And if we're going to make gray hair, of course, we'll need a little bit of black out of this. Just the tiniest amount of black. Yeah, nice gray there. To give him his hair. His gray beard. He's had a long and rewarding career of sucking the souls out of people, which perhaps contributes to his expression of ultimate horror. Alright, there he is. Make sure my hands are clean. Oh, we'll start looking at basing these guys. Okay, so here are the base sizes. These are 40 millimeter bases. And we can use these for the bigger models. So I'm just going to kind of quickly look through and see which those would be. I think the bigger models would be this guy, probably a bigger one. This guy, a bigger one. So they're going to get the big base models. I think everybody else looks small base to me, so they're going to get 30 millimeter models. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start basing them. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is take a look at what I want to do with the base. I think what I want to do is I want to make sure that I fill in this horrible little gap thing. Because what will happen is everything will fall into the gap if I don't fix that. So for that I need a piece of pip error. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to rip a piece of paper and roll it up and make a little shape. I'm just going to go ahead and roll up. Roll up the paper, stick the paper in the hole. It's about the same size as the hole though. Okay, thank you. So there. So what that does is it puts something in that space so that the glue and everything else that we use doesn't just go ahead and roll in there. So it doesn't take much paper. I want to say a piece maybe about 4 millimeters or 5 millimeters. And then you just kind of roll it or you curl it. Roll it up. Insert it. I might as well do this step for all the bases I'm going to do today. Just right size. You can do this with kind of any type of paper you want, but there's some papers that will work better than others. The main thing is you get something that fills up most of that hole. And let's see, so we got 2 big bases, 1, 2. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 smaller bases. So for those, I'm going to use the 30 millimeter size here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, now normally if I've got a figure that's a couple of feet and it's not attached to a base, I'll go ahead and I'll put glue on my base, and then I will go ahead and I'll put super glue in the middle and I'll glue it all down, and then I'll apply the sand. For these guys, because it's going to be the same difficulty of applying the glue in between their legs as outside, I'm going to super glue the models first. Then when I'm done super gluing them, I'm going to start adding the granulate. So for this super glue process, I'm just going to try and make it so that when I put the figure down, the figure is not in an awkward storage space. So for example, for this guy, if I put him down on here, I don't want him sticking out too far so that he's overbalanced and he flops over. And where possible, I want to keep the edges of the model inside the base area, which helps storage. So I'm thinking he wants to go right about like that. So now that I have a good idea where he's going to go, apply the super glue. And put that bad boy on. Number one rule about super glue, it doesn't actually cure completely in those first seconds. So after I do the obligatory hold it down for a minute or so and release it, I'm going to put it off to the side and let it cook. This is going to help it from doing stuff later. Plus I'm working with these Reaper models, which are lovely, but they've got that flexi plastic stuff, which will give, if I let it go, it'll just crack and bend back up to its normal positioning. So this is the Orgoth Slayer. He's basically the biggest, craziest frenzy guy they got. Let go. And he sticks. Yes, he sticks. I put him over there so that he can dry up a bit. And we'll go to the next big one. This is the Slaver. So we're going to put him on the base, and if we look at him, he's kind of tilted off to that side, so I'm going to push him off to this edge of the base when I glue him. Glue. And I gotta hold him. Hold him down. And wait for him to dry too. Once I've got the models onto their bases, then I'm going to go ahead and apply the glue and apply the sand. Now, he and the other big guy, I'm going to kind of look at the way that their face is looking, and which way should be their front, and I'll mark that on the individual figure. It's always nice to know which way the front and which way the back is, instead of having to interpret it, because that can be subjective, right? Tilting back and forth, what is it? Okay. The little bases. I'll actually go through the whole process first on these guys in a minute. And make plugs. So these little bits are very necessary. It keeps the glue from falling down through. I got this thing in the mail, this really high-priced, bad APR credit card from America, something black card. And that worked really good when I tore up the envelope because it was black. But, you know, these work too.
They do send the best envelopes with those.
Yeah, they're so snazzy. It looks like it's something that you'd really want, you know, and then you look at it, it's only 18.99% APR.
But I'm going to save y'all's envelope. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll use that.
That's a nice envelope.
Almost done here with the plugs. 2 more to go. Now for the other glue that I use, I'm going to be using some whitish looking glue. You could use white glue if you wanted, but I don't trust white glue because I don't want things that will completely de-res if the thing gets wet. So I'm trying to choose something like tacky glue or carpenter's glue. Carpenter's glue has a little bit more body. So does tacky glue. Okay. And yes, I'm going to use a brush to apply the glue. Last little burrito here. And plunk. They're all plugged. Okay, now I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm going to go on this. All right. Glue the last bases. Immobile for a little while. So in this particular guy, this is the Jarl. He is the basically the leader of the whole group of Orgoth. By clans I had it so that their different clothing denotes their clan. So it could be red from another clan or blue for another clan, but I chose these colors for this particular clan because they're more sinister. And he's like the boss. His little bonus in the game that I've got is that he improves, he gives another tough roll for anyone who's tough around him. He is. It's not really on there. Come on now, stay on that base. He is not saying. He might be too big for that hole. Put a little bit more glue on him and try him one more time. He really takes up almost the entire base, so. Gotta make sure I hold him for long enough. That's the thing about the glue. He's got a scepter too. He can smack people with his rod of office. Let's see if we can get him down there. And release. Okay, he's on. All right, the rest should be easy. His base was a little bit, it didn't exactly match the size of the receiving plastic. It's made him more difficult. These guys should go much farther. He's there, and boom. One. So gluing, if you don't wait the full 45 seconds or so for it to attach, it doesn't really fix the thing on. And then we'll add some jewels when we're done with all the basing procedures. All right, he's on. 2 more to go. Got this guy and this guy. This is the only one that's metal. Because his sword is sticking out that way, I'm going to push it over as far as I can, but that's not too far. So he's kind of one of these guys with a hanging Chad. Let him dry. And do him. Okay. The Warriors look better on their bases. Everything looks better on a base. And him too. He needs a base. I tried on the base instead of on the figure, not on the base. Should be the same difference. Alright. Oop, he's too big. That base is not going to fit. I got to make an adjustment there. Emergency adjustment. That's when the razor blade comes in handy. A little bit more off of that. Still not small enough. And that's going to work. Okay, a little bit more glue on that. All right. So now the sand is going to be the key thing that grounds them and adds just another little layer of realism onto the figure. Hold them down for a minute or so. I got to do a little bit of extra work on that skull. I think while I wait for him to adhere, I can quickly touch up the skull with some white. Add just a little bit of detail there. Okay, and now I'm at the point where I can start adding the sand. So here's my sand I mixed up last time, the Orgoth sand. And so I'm going to go ahead and take that sand and I'm going to adhere it to each of the bases. I'll start with the guy that I finished first, this guy. For today I'm going to go ahead and try use wood glue. See if I can get that open. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a bunch of this on there and then take it off of the bowl-like edges of each side of the mini. I have a significant size difference between the base of the base and how far up it's sticking. So there we go. A little bit of drip here and there, that's fine. Alright, there's that. And taking off the excess. There's various ways to do this. I like to do it with my hands, just because it gives me more precision. But you could do it a bunch of different ways to get off the excess. And I'll just put it down. And wipe my hands. I'm just going to rub my hands together and that will clean them. Amazingly. That's one nice thing about working with carpenter's glue or other glues like that. You can rub your hands, and if you rub them enough, it comes completely clean. Rubbing off the extra glue. Touch up the glue again where it wasn't. Over here. Here. Okay. Now it's time for the sand. Make sure all my edges are where I want them. Yep. So that's what he looks like right before I sand him. And before I put him down, get out the sand. And here's basically how I do the sand. I make a big mess. I basically go ahead and take the sand and I dump it on the figure. There it is in all its glory, sanded. So I'm going to wait a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently push. Push, push. Make sure the glue interacts fully with the grains. I'll let that sit for about a couple seconds. I'm going to recycle the sand in a bag because most of it really isn't sticking to the model. There it is. And I'll recycle that. And after I'm done with that, here's the result. It's like he's standing on the battlefield, instead of standing on a piece. So that is the process for applying sand. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to knock it a couple times. There it is. I look around. I'm pretty much happy. I see there's a couple spots where I think the sand shouldn't be, like on the feet. So I'll just take a small stiffer type brush and brush that clear. And then there he is, sanded. One thing that I find is helpful with each model is to show which way faces front. And the reason that is useful is if you're using it in a tabletop game, there's no argument about what's the first, which way it goes. So let me add a little, I usually add a little stripe to the front of my models, right like this. That helps me know which way is forward. And that model's done with its base. Time to base the rest. There's the glue. Now this was really kind of gloopy the last time I used it, so I gotta be a little more careful. The thing is, I really don't want to paint the parts of the model that I don't want the sand to stick to, so just got to be careful of that. Gotta be careful too when you put this on, it does want to gloop. It's gloopy! And so fun. I love basing figures. I know they're almost done. And the last steps before they can hit the battlefield. Alright, is it ready? Does it have every little puka got sand in it? Over there. Alright, so now I got the glue down. Of course, next I have to go ahead and get the glue off. And I use my technique. You could use like a napkin for this or anything else. I like to use my fingers and get that nice clean edge. And there's the edges. Put that down, rub my hands together, get them clean. Last little touch-ups on the glue. And time to glue, put the sand on. Here comes the sand. Ah! So this sand is a blend of Kahului Harbor black sand, construction gray particulate, and Kanaha Park white sand. And there it is. Nice. I'll knock it off. And there's the next base model. Recycle my sand. And put the sand back into a sand bag. I'm going to go over and get the sand removal on the parts that shouldn't be. And there it is, all done with its sandy base. I'll put the little direction indicator on it. A little bit more pigment. I'm not sure I like that too much. Okay, and we need some sand. Getting it in there can be kind of tricky. I really don't want to get it on his armor or anything else like that. On the back side. I find that as I twirl the brush, I can kind of keep most of the glue loogie on there. See that? Ooh, glue loogie. That going on down there. Sure, got every bit where I want it. The sand will not stay where there is no glue. Okay, wiping it off. This one's a little bit of a challenge because the base size really isn't that much different than the base receptacle. There it is. Just about ready for sand. Touch up the last little bits. It might need a little bit more. What is that? That doesn't look like something that belongs on the model. Funny little piece. Probably a bit of flashed lead or something. Alright, and we'll put the base on the dirt. There it is. Dumping dirt on the glue. Somehow very rewarding. I like doing this part. So when I make armies, each army has its own particular blend of dirt. It can go from sand to actual dirt. Like, here's a bag of the dirt from under my house, which I use for trolls. That kind of troll thing there, not dirt. Alright. There he is. All done. Alright. On to the priest. Priest doesn't have very much dirt on him. Not much dirt on the priest. He lived a clean life. He was an exemplar to the community. He led the raiding and pillaging and was generally well respected. Oh, jeez. Painting glue. Even though there's really almost no place for this to go on this model, it's still an important part, and it will help the model blend in with its fellows as part of the same faction. Just even the smallest fringe of sand will give that effect. As an example, here's a completed model with different sand. That's got a white sand on it. So it all depends on what you want to use. Oh, look at that. Okay, so now of course I'll wipe it off. It'll be a little hard to wipe off because there's not much difference in elevation between it and the next part model, but it'll be all right. Whoop, get that off there. Okay. Last touch-ups. Alright, he is ready for his sand treatment. His sand therapy. So, get him up there and get the sand on him. There it is. Sand. Press it on. Press. 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 Oh. You knock it off. There's his sand, and he's good to go. Moving on to the next model. There it goes, right around the feet. Edge. There it is. And not getting it everywhere. This guy was kind of short, so having the pedestal underneath him is helping offset that disadvantage. So he looks about the same size as his others. He was probably cast at a slightly smaller scale. That's what happened. Wipe off the excess. Then of course when I did that I brushed some off of this little bit of this edge here, so I'm going to put that back on. Ta-da! So my friend Mike printed me out these little palettes. This is useful. That's what I'm getting all the paint out of over here. And inside the feet, ta-da! Okay, there he is, ready to be sanded. Rest. Knock off. There, he's all sanded. There he is. Okay, adding him to the rest. This guy. This guy here, he is off, kind of sticking out this way. I'm gonna make sure it's gonna be a little bit. Oh, there we go. I remember now. I'm gonna chop off some parts. Oh, got a little bit of glue on his foot there. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. And everything looks like I got everything. Okay, I'm gonna get the excess off. When I rub it off like that, I like the clean line that it leaves right along that edge. I can't really replicate that with the brush. I don't have the skill. I kind of like the sensation of rolling the glue between my fingers. I guess that's one of the reasons I use my fingers for this. It's kind of, I don't know, I don't like it. You wouldn't want to do this with toxic glue or super glue. Super glue really wants to stick to you. Not so this particular type of glue. Okay, now retouch the places that need a little bit more glue. On that ridge. And there it is. Okay, and let's get the dirt on him. Get all the dirt on him. There it is, it's been dirted. Press it. I get to play with dirt. I missed a little spot. You missed a spot. Brush him off where he needs cleaning. There he is. Okay. And last one, the Reaper. Need a little bit more glue going on here. Try not to gloop everything. Get the gloopy goo. It's goo time. This is the last of the male warrior figures. I think I'll go ahead and put the jewels on next, so you can see how I do jewels. That's one of the things I kind of did for almost all of my armies. The only one of my armies that doesn't have jewels on it is the Crucible Guard, because they're just too modern for that. But every one of the other armies, I picked like one color of Swarovskis and used those jewels on every single model of the faction. It kind of adds a little bit of an intimidating element because your opponent can see the colors glittering at them from across the map. So, do those crystals in a minute here when we're done with him. Alright, Now we'll wipe off the excess. Wipe off the excess on me. A lot of that. All that excess. Whoop. Off. Now I'm going to retouch what I missed, or what I rubbed off, more like. All right, and he's ready to be sanded. So I'm going to put the sand on. This is the last one of the male models I'm going to sand for today. I don't think I'll have time to finish up the War Witches, but I'll show you what I can finish up on these guys. There's the sand. Such a complex process. It's really easy. And I just think it makes the models look better. Last little bit on there. Okay, brush off the excess with a dry brush. There we go. All right. Oh, okay. A little bit of something under there I didn't see before. I better fix that right away. See, what I didn't add was a little tiny bit of yellow. I can go ahead and fix that right now. Little painter's holiday there. There we go. Last little tiny bit there. Okay. And now he's done too. And he's in the lineup. So now, my Orgoth army is pretty much done, except for some little targeting indicators, which I can add later. And I'm going to move on to an exciting part here. After I wipe up all this grit and mess, sweep it all up.
Well, we need a table crummer.
It's actually, yeah, it's not that bad. You're right, though. I should.
Don't razor blade yourself.
Okay, get the pieces out of there. And I can recycle that. That's good sand. Perfectly good sand. And I really don't want to get it on the floor in this beautiful place, so. Okay. So I've got my Orgoth lineup. We are ready to go. I got 1, 2.
Slide them back towards you just a touch. There we go.
There they are, ready to serve. And I can go back over them and add little details if I want, if I'm not satisfied. But they're looking good. They're just missing one thing. They're missing jewels. Haha, the jewels. So now we take out our little Swarovskis, which are kind of hard to open. So I figured out the way to open these things is basically to cut them all open and put them into a container. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and use these things. I'm going to cut it all open and let it all fall out. There we go. Pry that open. And then pour out all the jewels. Now these Swarovskis come in 3 sizes, a 2mm, a 3mm, and a 4mm size. Generally, my rule of thumb is you can use any size you want, but if the model uses a bigger jewel, it's a different appearance. I'm going to go with all the jewels that I do on these guys. I think I'm going to go ahead and put the jewel on their chest somewhere. If I put it on the head, it might get in the way. So yeah, I'm going to put it on the chest. And here's the first guy here. I look at him. I could probably fit a nice fat jewel, maybe a 40 millimeter jewel between the upper and lower skulls, right in that little hole in his chest. So I'm going to do that. Here's the thing about the jewels. Don't get the super glue on the jewels. It's not good. It basically ruins the luster of the jewel. Okay, so a little bit of super glue first on the model, not on the jewel. Push these guys back a little bit. There it is. And then I'll use the forceps. I need a 40 millimeter jewel stat. I need a 40 millimeter. There we go. And so now I'm applying it right into the puka. Move it over before it sets into the proper location. I'm very persnickety about the way the jewel has to be. Okay, there it is. Now, with the jewel, it kind of adds a whole new layer to it.
Back that up just a little bit.
The light of the jewel shines.
Spin it 90 towards that camera. How do I get it in here?
So there's a jewel. Okay, we're going to put jewels on all these guys. One. The Priest King's jewel. Well, he's got a pretty little ornament there. I could probably fit the jewel in right on his waist. That's probably going to look aesthetically better. For the jewel to adhere, it's helpful if I break off the substrate a little bit. He gets a 30 millimeter. Actually a 20 millimeter, the small one. Because he's a small base. So 20 millimeter. 2 millimeters, sorry. Oh, come on now. Oh, it's not picking up, so I'm going to pick it up by pressing my finger on the jewel. Ah. And it's stuck to my finger. How's that? And make sure it's properly oriented. There it is.
The forceps couldn't grab the cut Swarovski.
No, it was problematic. So now, when I do him, he's got the jewel. So he's good to go. And we'll put the next jewel on. This guy. Right above his little skull there, I see a nice spot where I could put a 2 millimeter Swarovski. Braid it slightly. Move it. Okay. I'll just press my finger on it like I did last time. See if I can pick it up that way. There we go. And uh-oh. Quickly got to move it before it sets. Really got to sit just right, or it isn't the best effect. The jewel draws a lot of attention to itself. So there we go. He's got the jewel in the right spot. Okay. So now I'm going to put him up here, and you can see the effect of the jewel.
Spin into the cube. There we go. Perfect.
Like that. Okay. This guy. If I look at him, oh, he's got a nice spot right there for a jewel. Oh. Uh-oh. All right. Yeah. So here's the effect of this guy with the jewel. Right there. He's done. Okay. The big guy. A big jewel for the big guy. Oh, right on his chest there. Something it can stick on. Pardon me. There it is. Ooh, that's a big glob of crazy glue. I don't like that. I take some of that off right away. So he's going to get a bigger one. I think I can hopefully grab it this time with the forceps. There it goes. Oh, no. All right, we're back to sticking it on my finger. This is correct. That orientation. Oh yeah. Alright, there he is with this jewel. He winds up looking like this with the jewel. His chest. Alright, he's done. And this guy. Look at him. Well, there's really only one space because he's kind of small. it is. Yep. There's him with the jewel. And then last but not least, this guy. So where would the jewel go? It's going to go on his breastplate, right below where his beard ends. Score that a little bit for better adhesion. And go for another one of those jewels. Last one of these to go on. Straighten it up. Alright. So with his jewel, it appears like that. Alright. And those are the whole Orgoth warband. Just about ready there.
Do me a favor, set them all up. They're all done.
Yeah.
Get me a little cell phone here. Do my full army sweep of the whole thing.
There they are. There's the army.
Slide them just a little together. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Left just a touch again. Yeah, perfect. All right, end it up.
We did that. They are ready to play. A couple little touch-ups here and there might be necessary, but that is acceptable play level painting for me. And the War Witches, I wasn't able to finish them on time, but I can do some work on